Alright, so now that we have created the models and trained it, let us look at how we'll go about making the Flask web app. Let me open my directory here. Okay, so whenever we are making the Flask web app, we need to make sure that the directory has a certain structure. So let us go through that. The static folder here will deal with any kind of images that are being input into the HTML file or being rendered with a result to output to the HTML file. All these images will be saved here in the static folder. The templates folder has our actual index.html file. Let us open that. Here you can see that it's a very small file. The main part here being this form part, which we'll be using to submit the image. And we have an image tag here to show the image submitted, and then a Jinja expression for the result. Next, we have the app.py script and the model.py script in the root directory. And we also have our two models that we saved, model age.h5 and model gender.h5 in the root directory. So let us look at app.py script because it deals with creating our Flask web app. So from Flask, we'll import the Flask class. The app will be an instance of this Flask class. We are importing the render template function. The render template function basically deals with rendering our HTML file as and when required, and the request variable, which will help us communicate any kind of data that we input in the index.html file to our app.py script. We also import numpy and os. We also import the image pre and predict functions from our model.py script, which you can see here that we have defined. The image pre function we have defined here and the predict function we have defined here. We import these functions in our app.py script so that we can call them as and when necessary. So let us create a new instance of the Flask app. We set the upload folder as this static directory. We also set the allowed extensions to be only PNGs. That means that in the form in the HTML file, we'll only be allowed to input PNG files. Finally, we configure the app to default the upload folder to this directory that we have defined here. Next, we configure the URL to call the home function when our app is loaded for the first time. This home function will just render our index.html. After that, when the method get and post is used, that is when we press the form button in our index.html file here, then the app will be configured to call this function upload file. So let us see what this function does. So in this function, this code block here deals with checking whether there is a file uploaded in the form or not. And if there is a file, it is saving the file in the variable file1. So you can see here, if request.method is equal to post, then if file1 is not in request.files. Now what is this file1 here? This file1 is the same variable name as in the form here in the HTML file. We can see that the name here is equal to file1. Make sure that this is same in your HTML file and the app.py script. So if there is no file, it will return that there is no file in the form. If there is a file, then it will keep the file in the file1 variable here. Then we create a path with the static folder being the base directory and the name of the image which we'll save as input.png. And finally, we save the data that we got from the HTML file to that path. Now we send that path to our image pre function which is there in the model.py script. Let us see what happens there. Alright, so in the model.py script, we are importing TensorFlow to read our model. We're importing NumPy and Matplotlib. We're also importing CV2 to read our images. We define the base directory where our model exists, and we load the model using tf.keras.models.load model. We load both the models here. Now we define the image pre function, which is passed the parameter path. From this path, firstly, we are creating an empty NumPy array of the shape 1 cross 128 cross 128 cross 1. Then we are reading the image from the path given here. We are also doing the pre-processing, that is changing the image to grayscale changing the image to negative, and then resizing the image to 128 cross 128. Finally, we are reading the image and storing it as a NumPy array and reshaping it in the form that we can input into the model. We also normalize it by dividing it by 255. Finally, we return the data to our app.py script. That data is stored here in this data variable, and this data variable is passed to the predict function, which is present in our model.py. So let us look at that. Our model.py is basically a very simple function. It just gives us the prediction using model age dot predict and model gender dot predict. We are rounding these two predictions and we are sending it back to our app.py script. So now if gen is equal to 1, that means we'll be defining the result as the predicted age is the age that we got from the predict function, and the person is a male, as we saw in the data set. Otherwise, the predicted age is again that age that we got from the predict function, and the person is a female. Finally, we will be rendering the index.html using a render template and pass this result here, which we have defined in this if else statement, to the result variable in index.html, which is within these Jinja braces. Make sure that this name and the name here are same, otherwise the HTML file won't be able to read the value properly and display the output. Finally, to run the app, we are using this code block. So now that we know how to create the Flask web app, let us run this and look at it in real time. So we can see that our app is live on this link. So on a browser, we'll paste it. So let us not be concerned by this image because this was used in a previous testing. Let us upload a new file. So let us go to our test folder here. And in this test folder, let us upload a random image here. Okay, so we can see that the predicted age is 32 years and the person is a female.